Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, on YouTube, and on Twitter. I am Bryson Carver. Yes, we are back on those three platforms. Thank God. We had a little bit of technical issues last week. Kind of came in and out on Thursday's show and just decided to do Friday's show on IG Live. So we appreciate y'all standing by while we fix those. But we're back, and we've got ourselves a heck of a show. We've got ourselves a series in the NBA Finals. Of course, I'll lead the show off with that. The Milwaukee Bucks taking Game 3 in blowout fashion. Giannis Antetokounmpo once again doing his thing. Gonna have Alfred Parsard Jr., good friend of mine, good friend of the show, from the Metropolitan Report, big Mets fan, big baseball fan, joining the show to talk all things Major League Baseball going into the All-Star break, which we are in right now. Definitely going to discuss Shohei Ohtani and the home run derby tonight. His Mets, my Red Sox, the foreign substances, who's the favorites in the NL and the AL. Lots to talk about. I will also discuss why Monty Williams was correct in benching Devin Booker in the fourth quarter. I'll explain that in just a moment after I discuss Game 3. And my man, Damian Lillard, we're already starting to hear it. Golden State, internally, is discussing trading for Dame time. I will discuss that at the end of today's show. And Team USA, with a loss to Nigeria, one of the most shocking losses in Team USA basketball history, I'm here to tell you it's no big deal. Lots to talk about in the show. So, of course, we're going to start with Game 3, NBA Finals, Milwaukee Bucks, Phoenix Suns. Everybody's talking about a sweep. And I said, no, there's not going to be a sweep. People forgot. Milwaukee, probably the best team at home these whole playoffs, including Phoenix. People forget Phoenix has lost twice at home, for what it's worth, to the Lakers in the first round, to the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals. The Bucks have only lost one time at home. That was Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Atlanta Hawks. We talked about after Game 2, after Giannis dropped 42 on Phoenix, was unstoppable, scored 20 in the third quarter, and it was all for nothing. Why? Middleton, awful. Drew Holiday, again, awful. Nobody showed up in a green uniform or in a white uniform in Game 2 for the Milwaukee Bucks in Game 2. Everybody stepped up last night in Game 3. Obviously, Giannis, I mean, this is getting ridiculous. 41 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists. And something else about Giannis, and we've been talking about the free throw shooting thing, he went 13 for 17 for the free throw line. Okay, and now, I think there's a lot of factors that. Number one, he's at home. So it's like, okay, he can chill out. He's not going to get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it goes about that fast, too, by the way. He's not going to be worrying about those counts to 10 by the opposing fans. Matter of fact, you could hear a pin drop in the arena when he was shooting his free throws. I think that factored. But something else that I think factored, if you notice, and they pointed this out during the broadcast, Mark Jackson, he sped up his free throw shooting routine. It's not, taking 15 dribbles and then finally shooting. No. He's taking a few dribbles, shooting the free throw. It's that simple. He's changed his routine a little bit. What was the result? 13 for 17. Had Mike Breen, the best announcer arguably in sports, calling him, what did he call him? Steph Antetokounmpo? To which Mark Jackson was like, come on now. I mean, Mark coached Steph, so he knows. He's like, that's too much. Don't disrespect the Curry family name like that. But back to Milwaukee, everybody that needed to step up did. Middleton gave you 18. He scored more in the first half in Game 3 last night than he did the entirety of Game 2. Like this, that's the thing with Chris Middleton. I even saw like a meme about this over the weekend that he has a few straight good games. We think he's Michael Jordan, and then he has a stinker and he looks like the worst player in the NBA. Like you pretty much know through these playoffs what you're getting from Chris Middleton. 2 or 3 straight, I talked about this last week, 2 or 3 straight, really strong games. And then a game where you're like, oh, where'd he go? Who's this imposter that's disguised as Chris Middleton? And Drew Holiday. We found Drew Holiday, ladies and gentlemen, at least for a game. We found him. 21 points, 8 for 14 for the field, 5 for 10 from 3. He had 4 threes in the third quarter alone. He was lights out. And obviously, as he's done these entire playoffs, his entire career pretty much, excellent defense. Like, you can't just have Drew Holiday being Ben Simmons. Now, the difference between Holiday and Simmons is Holiday actually shoots jumpers, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But you can't have it to where he's a great defensive player and gives you nothing offensively. He gave you both last night, and you saw the result. Bobby Portis only played 5 minutes in Game 2. It's like, what's going on here? How does Bobby Portis only get 5 minutes after the way he played in the Eastern Conference Finals when Giannis was out? What happened? Bobby Portis, 18 minutes, 11 points, and all the energy plays. PJ Tucker, it seemed like every single shot that was missed by Milwaukee, PJ Tucker, all 6'5" of him, was in the lane. Was in the line, knocking the ball away, knocking it back out for offensive rebounds. PJ Tucker, unsung hero of last night. Played excellent. You know what? We talked about in this show, for all my criticisms of Russell Westbrook, and there are many, nobody plays harder in the NBA. PJ Tucker's not that far behind. PJ Tucker plays his you-know-what off. He was excellent last night. He was knocking down threes as well. And so, to the Phoenix side now. They didn't come ready to play. Simple as that. I think some of it for Chris Paul was Scott Foster was on the floor last night. And when Scott Foster is an official, when he is refereeing a Chris Paul playoff game, CP3 has lost, is it 12 straight or 13 straight? It's become a psychological thing now. And so I think as soon as CP3 saw Scott Foster, he's like, here we go again. Now, he did make some bad calls early in the game. But I thought, like, you can't blame I've always said, you can't blame a loss on a ref. Come on. The ref has impact in the game, obviously, but it's not as much as the players. I thought the biggest key, though, for Phoenix was not Chris Paul psychologically with the whole Scott Foster thing. It wasn't Devin Booker going, 3 for 14 from the field and 1 for 7 from three-point range, which we'll get into in just a second. To me, it was DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton early in the game was a grown man. I mean, he was a monster early in the game. One could argue that one stretch early on, he was the best player on the floor early, but he got into foul trouble. Right? He had 3 fouls going into halftime in the second quarter. Monty Williams had to take him out, and Milwaukee went on a big run. He starts the second half, early foul. He's out for the rest of the third quarter, and Milwaukee went on another big run. Like I've said this whole playoffs, DeAndre Ayton has been the X factor for the Phoenix Suns. When he's had his biggest games, they normally win. And he was en route to having another huge game, and he got into foul trouble. So he's got to be careful about that. Again, I'll get into Devin Booker just a second, but you look off the bench outside of Cam Johnson, who played really well off the bench. I thought Cam Johnson was excellent. Cameron Payne, 3 for 10, gave you nothing. Kaminsky, 3 for 5, but Torrey Craig's clearly not healthy out there. I thought Torrey Craig might be out the rest of the series after his injury in Game 2, and he was clearly a shell of himself. And so I think across the board, Milwaukee's dominant at home. Giannis had another unbelievable game. Unbelievable. He is solidifying himself. Okay, I am a top 5 player in the NBA. I'm not going to go to hyperbole, say he's the best player in the world and be a prisoner of the moment. I don't like to do that. I don't like overreaction Monday or overreaction any day. But Giannis is saying, I am a top 5 player. There is a reason I've won 2 straight MVPs. Right? There's a reason that this franchise has taken a complete 180 turnaround since I blossomed into my prime. And he is in his prime right now. And he is playing the best basketball of his whole career. So shouts to Giannis. He's been excellent. And Game 4 is going to be something. I'll predict Game 4 at the end of the show. We got a loaded show today. I'll predict Game 4 at the end of the show. But, man, this is a series now. This is a series. It was never going to be a sweep. Milwaukee was too good at home. Their role players are too good at home. And what do we know about role players? They're better at home. They're not so good on the road. That's what we saw. Phoenix's bench wasn't great. Now, outside of Jay Crowder was excellent yesterday, by the way. Jay Crowder seemed like made all their threes, right? For Milwaukee, the role players were terrible in the first 2 games of the series. Last night, showed up. They showed up. So, props to them and props to Mike Budenholzer. Last thing before I move on to Monty Williams. Props to Mike Budenholzer. I have killed him these whole playoffs because I'm like, what has been the downfall of Mike Budenholzer time and time again in the postseason? Back in his days in Atlanta, and now with the Bucks in his third playoff run with them as their head coach. Lack of adjustments. I understand the saying, go with what got you there, but when you got to make an in-game adjustment, when you got to make, I wouldn't say make something up on the fly. That just sounds like flat out improvising, but you get the idea. When you got to actually coach, hasn't been great. Last night, Phoenix goes up 36-30 in the second quarter, and you're starting to feel like, Phoenix starting to pull away a little bit. Timeout. Giannis, we're going to put you at the 5. And he gave it to Phoenix. Gave it to him. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say the momentum has completely shifted to Milwaukee. I think it will if they win Game 4, similar to the way it did in the Brooklyn series. But I just think, this is officially an NBA Finals now. It's 2-1 Phoenix, and I'm going to predict Game 4 at the end of the show. But a great win by the Milwaukee Bucks, 120-100. Now, let me talk about, this has been a big story today, Monty Williams and Devin Booker. Now, Devin Booker, as we all know, last night really struggled. 3 for 14 for the field, 1 for 7 from 3. Played bad. Played really bad. Only gave them 10 points. Now, a lot of people have criticized Monty Williams. Why didn't he put him in the fourth quarter? Devin Booker sat the entire fourth quarter. Here's why. Number one, first of all, obvious reasons. It was a 22-point game going into the fourth quarter. I doubt Phoenix would have made a crazy run on the road in that building the way that Milwaukee was playing. I doubt that Phoenix was going to make a crazy run. I just don't see it happening. However, to me, this is the biggest reason. What have we lauded about Monty Williams? What have we lauded about all great coaches in all sports? Is that the best coaches don't coach everybody the exact same way, right? Steve Kerr has the quote that I've used time and time again on the show. In the NBA, 10% of coaching is X's and O's. 10%. 90% is connecting to people. We saw the soundbite with Monty Williams with DeAndre Ayton in Game 2. Ayton was struggling. He dominated in Game 1. Not so great in Game 2. Monty Williams pulls him over. He's not going to yell at DeAndre Ayton because he knows that's not how you coach DeAndre Ayton. You make eye contact with him. Say, listen, if you can't dominate if your dominance doesn't come on the stat sheet, dominate the game by force. Is essentially what he told DeAndre Ayton, and he finished the game strong and started this game strong before he got into foul trouble. That's great coaching. Devin Booker strikes me as the type of dude that you can have a little bit of tough love with. He doesn't seem like a type of guy that would run away from a coach, getting your business a little bit. Now, not to say that's what Monty did, but I remember a game a few years ago. It was an NBA Finals game. Just talk about Steve Kerr. I'll use a Steve Kerr analogy here. It was the 2016 Finals. Yes, it was the Finals that Golden State blew the 3-1 lead in. I'm trying to forget that as much as possible. But Game 3 of that series, Golden State had a 2-0 lead going into that game. They got smoked by Cleveland by 30, and Steph played horrible. Steve Kerr, after the game, called Steph soft. His own coach called Steph soft. Steph dominated in Game 4, and Golden State won. This seems kind of similar to where you bench Devin Booker. He can take that mentally. I think he's going to play huge in Game 4. I think he's going to come out aggressive. He came out aggressive last night. He's just wasn't making shots. By the way, he wasn't really making that many shots in Game 1. He was 8 for 21 in Game 1. He wasn't making shots in Game 2. He just got hot in the fourth quarter, making threes all over the place. I think he finished with 7 threes for the game. But the point is, I think the reason that Monty Williams did this was because he realizes, look, he can take it. This is a guy that's been trained by Kobe Bryant. Right? He's got the tattoo on his arm. Be legendary. That's what Kobe told him. He writes in his shoes, be legendary. This is something that Kobe could have took. I think this is something that Devin Booker can take. Now, I'm not saying Devin Booker is Kobe. I've heard some people say, Devin Booker's next Kobe Bryant. No, he's not. There's one Kobe. I mean, stop it. But this is a dude I think that can take this. and turn it into a great performance in Game 4. So I expect Devin Booker to play a lot better in Game 4. I think this story will be old news pretty early on into the game. People will totally forget about this, and Phoenix will move on. Now, as great as the NBA Finals is, this baseball season's been excellent. And coming on the show, my next guest, I'm wearing my Boston Red Sox hat, of course, because this is kind of a long baseball segment we're about to go into. But he is the host of the Metropolitan Report. I've been on his show before. He's a great dude. Available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. He's a lifelong New York Mets fan who discusses the state of the team on a weekly basis. He's got 2 shows every week. Let's see what else, as well as other happenings in Major League Baseball. Would you please welcome my good buddy Alfred Parsard Jr. of the Metropolitan Report. Alfred, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm glad to finally be on the show, Bryson. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you on. Like I said, I was on your show a couple months ago in May, and it was pretty early on. You're still a pretty young podcaster in this business, and man, salute to you to what you're doing so far. You're doing an excellent job. So before we get into baseball, I just wanted to ask you. You're a first-time guest on Carving It Up. This is what we do with our guests. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your show.
So my name is Alfred Parsard Jr. Like you said, I host the Metropolitan Report. Pretty much the basis around that show. I've had Mets season tickets for years, so I figured why not just cover the team since I'm at every single home game, and it's been going well. Now I'm starting to get used to the Instagram thing, so I go live during pregame, postgame, even rain delays. So trying to bring everybody all the Mets coverage and, of course, all my opinions as well.
Absolutely. So, I think what's great about your show is, obviously you do cover the Mets, and you are a guy, like you said, you have Mets season tickets, and so you go to all these games and watch a lot of your lives, and so you are essentially like a fan/reporter in a way. Like you're in the stands, you're doing your thing at Citi Field. So I've really enjoyed those. Now, before we get into your Mets, let's talk a little bit about probably the biggest story in sports this side of the NBA Finals, and that's Shohei Ohtani. He's having about as sensational a run as any player has ever had in the first half of a season. When you consider his dominance pitching, you're talking about, leading all baseball in homers. I never thought I'd see the day where, and obviously Mike Trout's hurt, but I've never thought I'd see the day where he's old news with the Angels, at least for the time being. Talk a little bit about what you've seen, and do you think there's anybody in the American League that's going to catch him?
So before I get on Ohtani, it's just amazing because we'll take a little bit of a history lesson. Babe Ruth was the last person to do what he's doing.
Yes.
And Babe Ruth played for your Boston Red Sox when he was a pitcher and a left fielder simultaneously before he went to the Yankees. A lot of people forget about that. But even when he was doing both, Babe Ruth was never an all-star pitcher because Ohtani is supposed to pitch and hit in the all-star game tomorrow. So it's phenomenal. As far as what you said, just like what you said, I never thought I'd see a day where Mike Trout was an afterthought when it comes to the Angels. Of course, Trout has been out for the last couple of weeks with the oblique, but Ohtani is like now the headline when it comes to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. As far as who in the American League can catch him, I don't think anybody. When you look at all the big notable names in the American League, a lot of these guys are either not playing up to standard or they're hurt. So, of course, there's no Trout. All the Yankee guys, Stanton and Judge, haven't been playing up to par. Shane Bieber's been hurt for so long now. So I don't think there's any – he's going to run away with that AL MVP if he keeps this up. I think the close second would be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. However, he would fall out of the running should the Blue Jays not make the postseason. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree. And, we're actually going to get to see Ohtani tonight. He's the man. Home run derby tonight, about an hour and a half from now on ESPN. You're talking about in a less than 24-hour span. He's the number one seed in home run derby. He's going to be the starting pitcher for the American League, and he's going to lead off as the DH. I mean, that's incredible. That's incredible what he's doing. And so we've like you said, we have not seen anything like this in Major League Baseball since Babe Ruth. Never. Nothing like it. And, I remember when he was coming out in 2017 from one of the Japanese leagues there. And they've obviously sent some amazing players to Major League Baseball. But I thought it was a little bit overhype. He's coming over dead wrong. I mean, what he is doing is just sensational.
I don't know if you remember this, but if you look at his scouting report, his initial scouting report, when the Angels first brought him over from Japan, they claimed that he wouldn't be better than a double-A hitter. So, boy, were they wrong.
Wow, you're not kidding, man. So let's shift from the best player in baseball currently to your New York Mets, the team that you cover. They're currently up 3.5 games in the National League East. The National League, you got, in my view, I think there are currently 4 teams, at the very least 3, that have better title odds than the Mets. The top 3 teams in the West, when you got the Giants, Dodgers, and Padres, and certainly the Brewers, they haven't played great baseball, recently, but they've certainly had a great season themselves. Do you see any scenario where the Mets can put themselves into title contention? Because they're probably on their way to winning the National League East.
So before I answer your question, I'll be very honest, because on my show, despite me being a Mets fan, I will tell the absolute truth. And I've said this so many times on the Metropolitan Report. If the Mets played in any other division in baseball, they would not be a playoff team.
Bingo.
Especially because you mentioned the National League West, where the Padres are 13 games over 500, and that's only good for a wild card spot. The Mets, they're only 7 games over, and they're not even winning games they should win. Yesterday against Pittsburgh, they had a 5-0 lead after the first inning and lost 6-5 in a game where Brian Hayes didn't even play. So, I mean, as far as them winning the NL East, I think they're going to walk away with the division, especially now because the Braves lost Ronald Acuna for the year. That's a freak injury that,
Sucks.
When I saw the video of it, I just cringed. But I don't think they can be a contender this year unless they make a significant move at the deadline. The Mets need 3 things. They need another decent bat, whether it's an average bat, a guy who bats for average, or a power guy. Chris Bryant from the Cubs or Adam Frazier from the Pirates both come to mind. And they need a legit 5th starting pitcher. It's a miracle to me how they're in first place and they only have 3 strong rotation guys. The rookie Tyler McGill, good 4th guy. He hasn't had a bad start yet this season, but that's probably because there's no tape on him at the major league level, so these teams don't know what they're getting when they oppose him. But this 5th spot, Luis Rojas, I've never seen a team with so many bullpen games where they start a reliever and rely on the bullpen throughout every inning of the game. It's just wild to me. So we're very fortunate that the rest of the division is not good.
No, it's terrible. I mean, I remember we were talking a couple weeks ago about the Nationals. They got hot, and all of a sudden they're 2-9 in July. They're back into being in the sellers category in regards to the upcoming trade deadline. The Phillies, they've gotten hot. They beat my Red Sox the last couple of games. But I just don't see them as a consistent team. Going forward, as I have a comment from our mutual friend, Barry Grant Jr., don't get started. Don't get me started on the damn Mets. Yeah, I understand. To me, the problem with the Mets has been obviously offense. I am shocked at how disappointing that Francisco Lindor has been. I
know this is going to upset our friend Barry, but from All Even, but Lindor, and you've probably seen it on my Instagram feed. Every time he comes up to bat, I take a picture of his stats off the Jumbotron.
Yeah.
And I always just write the $341 million man. Although yesterday, he did have a great game, went 3 for 4 with a homer, and had a walk. So he went on base 4 times. Friday night, he had the grand slam. So hopefully he's starting to wake up. The weather is much warmer than it was in April and May. So hopefully he wakes up. But my biggest issue with Lindor, and I've said this on my show, we originally offered him $325 million. He wanted $365, and we met him at $341. Now, if you're going to ask for more money, you got to produce. That's just my train of thought. Everybody says, well, he's in a league he's never played in before, but the guy we traded for him is hitting 280. Ahmed Rosario's in Cleveland hitting 280. So,
yep.
And he's never played in the American League before. So why can't Why can't Lindor have similar results?
I'm with you. Barry also says it's his first year. You guys are saying, look, he's on a long deal. I get it. It's I'll tell you what's reminding me a little bit of is the Bryce Harper deal in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
A little bit. Some can make comparisons to the Manny Machado deal with San Diego as well, but I don't know what's up. We're talking about a guy who was the perennial best shortstop in all of baseball, and now, not as productive. But let's shift now to my Red Sox. Obviously, wearing my Red Sox hat. A game and a half up on the Tampa Bay Rays, the defending AL champ Tampa Bay Rays in the American League East. Lost 3 of their last 4, so, got to pick up in the second half. I didn't see this coming. As a Red Sox fan, I didn't see this coming. Considering last year, last in the division, even below lowly Baltimore, I didn't see this coming, but starting pitching has been solid for the most part. Chris Sale, we anticipate is going to come back in the second half of the season. What has been your impressions of the Red Sox, and do you think they are a legit title contender? Do you think they need to make any moves at the deadline?
Well, first off, let me start by saying congratulations to your 5 All-Stars. You guys got Bogarts, Devers, Evaldi, JD Martinez, and Matt Barnes all playing in the Midsummer Classic. So congratulations. You've got 4 more than my Mets do.
Yes, sir.
But you guys have been playing solid ball, and when we had you on the Metropolitan Report, you guys were a half a game out of first behind the Rays. You guys are in an interesting division because 4 of the teams out of the 5 are above 500. Obviously, the Orioles are not going to catch you guys at all. I don't foresee the Yankees getting a wild card or even being competitive in the division. It's between you guys and Tampa, but I don't think Tampa catches you either. I think out of all the American League teams, I think you guys are the second best right now. I'm gonna give the edge to the Tony La Russa led White Sox, regardless of what you think about La Russa and those guys. But they're playing excellent baseball.
They are.
I can't give the nod to the Astros because in my heart of hearts, that 2017 scandal just doesn't do it for me. But I think you guys have a strong chance. Should you guys make a move at the deadline, I say not for anything major. Maybe a bench bat. You take maybe a good player off of a struggling team, insert, because I can't think of anybody that you guys can give up that people would want. Obviously none of your 5 All-Stars are going. Kike Hernandez, definitely you're not moving him, which was a great pickup in the offseason.
Loved it.
I can't see you guys moving Verdugo. So
Renfroe as well. I thought was a good offseason pickup. Yep. But go ahead.
No, and I was gonna say, just like you, I didn't think that you guys would be competitive, especially after last season. And in the offseason, you unload Andrew Benintendi. So, and Benintendi was a huge reason you guys got that World Series in 2018. So the fact that you guys are in first in probably one of the most competitive divisions in all of baseball is shocking, but congratulations again.
Appreciate that. No, let's see. I'm trying to do the quick in my head. I don't think an American League East team has not been to an ALCS since 2012.
That's correct.
If I'm not mistaken, I know the Tigers were in 2012. I can't remember who the Tigers went up against that year, but I know Red Sox made it in 13. Who was it in 2014? Man, I'm going blank here. Let's see. I don't know. I can remember 2015 on, and obviously I know my Red Sox won the 2013 World Series. But pretty much the road to winning the pennant has gone through the American League East for these last few years. So, like you said, the offense was never my concern, considering, like you said, the All-Stars, Martinez, right, Bogarts, and Devers. Obviously, added Verdugo. Kike has been outstanding from the leadoff spot. But it's been the pitching, and they start with, I think, 5 or 6 straight division series coming up, starting off with a 4-gamer against the Yankees in the Bronx. Now, speaking of the Yankees, is my man John Rivera from the Fan Podcast. Shout out to him. We expect this from the Mets, but my Yankees, and he's got the crying face. I want to hear your thoughts on the Yankees first. Obviously, I didn't see them in a position to where they'd be struggling just to compete for a wild card spot. But just give me your thoughts on the other team in New York right now.
Injuries and lack of pitching is what's getting them. I actually went to Yankee Stadium for the first time in my life last week when the Mets played them in the Subway Series. Unfortunately, I went to the one game that the Yankees won. But now the Yankees club is very interesting. It's like a game of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because one game they come out and the offense is just fantastic. The pitching is great, but where their problem lies is if they don't hit home runs, they don't win games. And they're a team full of power hitters. They've got Stanton, they've got Judge, Gio Urshela is known for power. DJ LeMahieu's just not hitting this season for whatever reason. And that god-awful bullpen. Darren O'Day is not the same Darren O'Day that was in Baltimore. Aroldis Chapman, now when he enters the game, other teams salivate at the chance to send their players up to bat against him. I think in his last 9 save opportunities, he's blown 6 of them, which is very telling because Chapman was a guy who a couple of years back, when he entered the game,
it's over.
Your offense was afraid of him. He was a pitch. Usually the batter strikes fear in the heart of the pitcher, but it was the other way around with Chapman. The guy throws a 102-mile-per-hour fastball. So, I mean, the fact that he's blowing saves and the way he's blowing saves, most of these saves have been blown off of home runs.
Yep.
And
look at the Angels a couple weeks ago.
Yep. And I've been telling people, I'm like, you got a guy whose fastball is between 102 to 104 miles an hour. You can't throw with such velocity and be able to control that. So, and then also you look at the other bullpen, the only good reliever that they have, in my opinion, right now is Chad Green.
Yeah.
Other than Chad Green, Lucas Lichty has been okay. Michael King has been okay, but O'Day and Chapman, and then and then even their rotation. I mean, when you've got to start a guy like Nestor Cortez Jr., a career journeyman, I mean that's rough. And then I know we're going to get to it at some point in this conversation, but Garrett Cole and the sticky stuff crackdown. Ever since they've been cracking down on the sticky stuff, he hasn't been the same ace pitcher that we've come to know and love. So it's they need pitching. And honestly, if I were the Yankees, and I know Yankee fans are probably going to be upset with me when I say this, but at the deadline, if the next because the deadline's in 2 weeks from this Friday, if they start the second half on a losing streak, start the fire sale.
Okay, so you think this isn't just a this is a crap year? We move on to next year. You think you just blow it up right now?
Just blow it up and even look at it, Bryson. They have Miguel Andujar, a career infielder, playing in the outfield. It's a similar situation to the Mets' Dom Smith, a guy who has no outfield experience, and you're sticking him out there. The only difference is that Dom is showing proficiency in the outfield, where Andujar has had some struggles. And then Gleyber Torres, another guy slumping all year, having an off year. And like we've seen in sports, not just with baseball, but basketball, football, hockey, the rebuilding process has to start eventually. No team never rebuilds ever.
Right.
Some have longer periods of success than others, but at some point, eventually, they're going to have to rebuild. And I think you should just start the rebuild this year. They've got a decent farm system with Estevan Florial and Jason Dominguez in the farm system. So, and Dominguez had a good showing at the Futures game yesterday. So the future is bright for them, and I think they should sell off some of these high-priced guys for some prospects and build over.
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out because, again, they do start against my Red Sox, and if they drop 3 of the 4, then they'd be under 500 at that point, and it's not looking so bright. Barry says, "I drink the tears of Yankees fans." John Rivera says, "Is Boone gone if we don't turn around?" What's your thoughts on that?
I think Boone gets fired even if they do make the playoffs. And here's where I take it. If they make the playoffs and if they don't win the division and they get a wild card spot and then they lose in that first round, Boone is gone. In order for Boone to survive, that team would need to make the playoffs, get to at least minimum the ALCS, if not the World Series, and win the whole thing, which is looking like a long shot at this point.
Yeah, I can't see them get back to the ALCS, especially if they couldn't do it last year against Tampa Bay. Obviously, you had the whole Astros cheating scandal that kept them out in 2017. But like you said, Chapman's been awful. I mean, yesterday they gave up, was it 7 in the 9th inning to Houston?
Houston, the comeback, yeah. To
blow the game. I mean, everything that could have possibly went wrong for the Yankees this year, whether it's injuries, offensive struggles, pitching, it's been horrible. Now, you did allude to Garrett Cole. who, like you said, we all knew as one of the 2 or 3 best pitchers in all of baseball. And all of a sudden, now he pitched a phenomenal game on Saturday. But outside of that, it has not been smooth sailing since they cracked down on the foreign substances, which has been a topic of conversation ever since they've been checking pitchers, for the last few weeks or so. What's your whole thoughts on the whole foreign substance scandal in regards to umpires checking for it, in regards to, some pitchers have said, well, batters can put pine tar in their bats. Like, what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
Initially, when they rolled this whole thing out, I was a fan of it. Now I'm starting to see, on the umpire's part, it's all discretion. I'll give you a good example. June 21st was the first day in the majors that they started this crackdown on the substances. I went to a game that day where the Mets played the Braves, and Jacob deGrom pitched. They checked Jacob deGrom, and that was a 7-inning game because it was a doubleheader. They checked Jacob deGrom 5 times. So that's 5 innings, 5 consecutive innings. They checked him. The opposing pitcher on the Braves, I think it's Kyle Wright. They only checked him twice. So I don't like that. The discretion of the umpires is they have all the discretion. If you're going to check Jacob deGrom 5 times, the other pitcher should be checked 5 times.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a bias there. Also, I've seen instances where a pitcher will have a reliever will come in, have a lights out 1, 2, 3 inning, and they'll check him. But then if he struggled in the inning, they just let him go. So it's just, you know what? And I don't even blame Max Scherzer and Sergio Romo for how they've reacted. We saw Romo. They went to check him and he pulled his pants down. We seen Scherzer almost get into the fight with Girardi because Girardi wanted him checked 1 extra time. So I don't blame these guys, and it gets annoying. You have a good inning, you have a 1, 2, 3 inning. In the case of Edwin Diaz, a couple games ago, struck out the side. They checked him right after the game was over. And then also my other point of contention: why are you checking these guys after the inning? So let's say, for example, your Red Sox, for example, Matt Barnes strikes out the side. You're going to check him after he did what he did. So what if he gets caught? Are you going to erase that whole inning and make them play it over? Like,
that's true. Yeah.
I think if you're going to check a guy, check him before he throws his first pitch. We saw Hector Santiago of the Mariners has been the only one that's gotten caught so far. And he's disputed it as just rosin because rosin is the only substance you're allowed to use. He's saying it was rosin on his glove. Usually you put rosin on the ball. There's a rosin bag behind the mound, so I don't know why you would put it on your glove. But it's just, I don't know. I feel like this whole process is tedious. The penalties are even harsher. You get a guy who gets suspended for the substances, and you can't even replace him. He's going to be gone from your roster for 10 days. You can't sign a free agent. You can't have a minor league call-up. You just have to play shorthanded minus 1 guy off the roster, which, depending on who gets suspended, because if it's a starting pitcher, now that affects your whole rotation. Everybody gets 1 day less of rest. So, I mean, and then also position players. Like if they find the stuff on the catcher or any of the infielders, or if any of them assisted the pitcher in putting a substance on the ball, they're gone too. And then the fact that the managers can request that the umpires check a guy additional times is also troublesome.
I hate that.
And we've seen, like, I lost a bit of respect for Joe Girardi when he asked them to check Max Scherzer a 3rd time. It's like, I don't know. I understand that baseball is trying to clean up the sport. Baseball has always, for the longest while, ever since like the 80s, they've been a sport that's been in controversy with cheating from steroids and now banned substances 20 years later. So I get it. They want to clean up their sport, but you got to go about it a different way. And even Pete Alonso, I talked about it on my show and played the soundbite. He was a guy who said, "Oh, let them use the sticky stuff. I don't care. I'm using pine tar," like you said. And pine tar, we've known it gives a hitter an advantage. But also, my opinion on why they started this whole thing, batting averages are down across the board. If you look at almost every team, nobody hardly is hitting 300. In the National League alone, there's only 3 batters hitting 300, and 2 of them are on the Cincinnati Reds, and Jesse Winker and Nick Castellanos. The other guy is my guy, Brandon Nimmo. Other than that, everybody's hitting in the 200s. The Pirates came to town yesterday. they've only got 2 guys over 300, John Nagowski and Adam Frazier. Everybody else is in the low 200s, even some guys in the 100s. So I guess this was their response to try to get batting averages up. Some people will say, oh, well, the batting averages are down because they're not juicing balls anymore. But even that's another whole conspiracy theory for a different conversation. But I have mixed feelings on this banned substance stuff. I think it's good for the game that they're trying to make an effort to clean it up, but I think this is the wrong way to go about it.
Okay, no, I think you made a lot of good points right there. I think, number one, you alluded to the whole Max Scherzer, Joe Girardi situation. That was just horrible all the way around. I understand. You said baseball's cheating scandals have gone back to the 80s. I could argue it's went back a century with the Black Sox back in the earlier baseball days.
With Shoeless Joe Jackson and all those guys, yep.
Right. And so I think, I see a comment here from Barry. These checks are embarrassing. Baseball's finally imploded on itself. I mean, it's every year we're seeing something, and not to the level of, say, like a Houston Astros cheating scandal, which, just rocked the sport. But like you said, there's always something. We had the Red Sox got in trouble with the Apple Watches thing a few years ago. I think the Yankees had something a little bit similar to that. And so, I get they're trying to crack down on it. If I'm a pitcher, Alfred, I think like you said, if you're Matt Barnes, go 1, 2, 3 in the inning. Now he's a closer, so it's probably at the end of a game,
right? And
you're going to the dugout and getting checked. If it's not the end of the game, you're if it feels like it messes up your rhythm a little bit, if it messes up your flow, going back to the dugout. That's just me, but I get that, and maybe it's a little bit similar to like what the NFL does. Like we all know with the NFL, the rules are a little bit rigged in a way in favor of the offense. People want to see points. People don't want to see games, 17 to 10. They want to see 35-31 shootouts. Same case in baseball. We don't want to see 2-1 final scores. We want to see 10-9. So I think all of that factors in itself, and I think you make a lot of good points with the foreign substance. And so hopefully it doesn't become a story once October rolls around, because that would just be horrible. But you make a lot of good points there. Now, final question. It's a tough one. Who do you think wins the 2 pennants?
Nationally, I'm going to go with the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are in the second half. I can't see that while it's a great Cinderella story, I can't see the San Francisco Giants come out of obscurity and mediocrity the previous season to being the crown jewel of baseball, because
let me jump in just super quick about the San Francisco Giants. I'll tell you who they remind me a little bit of. As a Red Sox fan, they reminded me a little bit of that 2013 Red Sox team. It's a bunch of old guys that came off a horrendous 2012 season, and all of a sudden they're the World Series champions. They're the best team in baseball. But just had to throw that in there. That's who they remind me of a little bit. But go ahead.
And I get you. And if you look at that team, the makeup of the Giants, like you said, bunch of veterans. Buster Posey's having a career resurgence. He hasn't played like this since 2012 when he won the MVP. You've got guys like Johnny Cueto and Kevin Gossman in the rotation. 2 guys. One guy passed his prime, because Johnny Cueto, we know him as the Johnny Cueto from Cincinnati that was dominant. And Kevin Gossman was a guy who the Braves had wanted to be their ace, and he just never panned out. He goes to San Francisco having a heck of a season. Alex Wood, Jake McGee, 2 guys who won a World Series last year, weren't the focal point of the Dodgers pitching staff and have come to San Francisco and been lights out. You got Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt, 2 more holdovers from the last time they won the World Series. The only young guy they really have is Carl Yastrzemski. And other than him, this team is like the team of old vets. So, but I don't see them holding up the lead. I think they still make the playoffs. I think that playoffs is going to be San Diego and San Francisco in the wild card. I don't see anybody from the NL Central. Whoever finishes second doesn't have a chance to catch them. And, of course, the Mets are the Mets in the NL East. But I think the Dodgers win that pennant. In the American League, my heart wants to say White Sox. But judging from how well they've played and ended the first half, I wouldn't be surprised if the Astros ended up winning the pennant, as much as I don't want them to. But I've always been a huge Dusty Baker guy, and I know he had nothing to do with that. He wasn't there at the time of the scandal. So,
right.
but I think the Astros, especially the way that they overtook that division from Oakland, they have all the momentum going into the second half. So I don't see. I think the ALCS is going to be you guys in Houston though. But I'm hoping if it does come to that, I'd root for you guys before I root for the Astros.
Well, if there's one thing Red Sox and Mets fans can unite on, it's that we both hate the Yankees.
Yes,
badly. So we'll all come in on that. But no, I think you make good points. What's ironic about your prediction is that was actually my preseason prediction. Astros, Dodgers, because I'd like to see the Dodgers get revenge from what happened in 2017.
Oh yeah,
obviously what happened last year with them winning for the first time since '88 was a great story, and it was awesome. But it was in a bubble. Like if you want to come back,
it was an asterisk because of the short season.
I wouldn't say you know me. I think you saw my video on the NBA Finals. I don't think there's asterisk in sports. I think listen, everybody's in the same position. Everybody came in with a 60-game schedule. Everybody had to play in bubbles. I don't think it's tarnished or an asterisk, but I do think it wouldn't hold the same weight as it would if they won this thing this year, at Dodger Stadium or elsewhere. But I'll tell you what would be just perfect is if they won it in Houston when the whole thing. Everybody remembers Game 5 of 2017 when Houston scored 12 runs or something crazy, and we're just killing Kershaw, the early part of that game. But that would probably, my heart obviously says the Red Sox, and I certainly think they're right in the mix. I would probably go, I agree with you on the Dodgers. I would probably go right now with the White Sox, considering how amazing their pitching has been. I think they've got multiple pitchers in the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken. And so
the only reason why I shy away from the White Sox, if you look at their list of injuries, Luis Robert is hurt. What's this guy? Nick Madrigal also hurt. Two key cogs of the team, and then the injury issues that have been plaguing Eloy Jimenez and Jose Abreu. That's Abreu hasn't played in a while. Luis Robert hasn't played in a while, and Madrigal's done for the year. So and when you try to replace Eloy Jimenez with Brian Goodwin, that you can't compare the two. But what's carrying them is their pitching because, like you said, they have a couple of all-stars. Rodon has been great this season. Lucas Giolito is Giolito. And they had a great pickup with Liam Hendricks coming out of the bullpen. So I hope, if they could take out the Astros, that'd be great. White Sox, Red Sox, ALCS, I wouldn't mind watching that. That'd be some good baseball.
That would be fun. And like you said, I think if Red Sox and Mets fans can all unite on hating the Yankees, John Rivera says, "Let's go Yankees! Get out of here, John. Get out of here with that nonsense." But all baseball can all unite in that. We would love nothing more than to see the Astros go out in the division series. Maybe in sweeping fashion, although I don't think that's realistic. But we all pretty much feel the same way. Alfred, thank you for coming on the show. Hope to have you on probably sometime in October during the playoffs. Talk, whatever's going on in playoff baseball at that point. It's gonna be fun. Look forward to having you on the show in the future, man.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, and I'll be glad to come back.
Yes, sir. That was Alfred Parsard Jr. from the Metropolitan Report. Big Mets fan, big baseball fan, clearly knows what he's talking about, and is always welcome to the show. So absolutely great to have him on. Now, back to basketball, back to the NBA. Well, if we're going to go with the NBA, let's go to Team USA real quick. They lost to Nigeria. Obviously probably one of the biggest upsets if not, I wouldn't say the biggest upset, but it's one of the biggest upsets in Team USA in international basketball history. I mean, you're talking about a team in Team USA that has Damian Lillard, and we will get into Dame in just a second. Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum. I mean, just a stacked roster as you would expect. Certainly nowhere near the 2012 roster at all, but certainly a great team. Here's what I think it is. It's a wake-up call. Nothing more, nothing less. This reminds me a little bit. Here's what reminds me of a little bit. I'll speak from the experience as a Warriors fan. 2016, obviously they came off the 73-9 season, blowing the 3-1 lead to Cleveland. But you're like, Golden State, they choked down the 3-1 lead. They're going to be back. I mean, they got the back-to-back MVP and Steph, Clay, Draymond, the whole squad's coming back. And then they had this Kevin Durant guy who's only one of the greatest scorers the game of basketball has ever seen. And everybody's like, they're just going to blow through the regular season. They'll break the 73-9 record. And on opening night in their home building, they play the San Antonio Spurs, who had much better chemistry. Obviously, Tim Duncan had just retired, but they had much better chemistry. They played together, and they got smoked by 29 on their home floor. Golden State still went on to win the championship. They won 67 games and went 16-1 in the playoffs. I think it's, again, an overreaction to say, oh, Team USA is not going to win gold. Yes, they are. They got the best team. Greg Popovich is the head coach. They will be fine. They will be fine. Keep in mind, Nigeria went crazy from three-point range. We did not see this coming from them. It's an exhibition game. The game means literally nothing. Team USA is winning gold. We've got the best team in the world once again. A team led by KD, Dame, Bradley Beal, Bam, Jason Tatum. Not real sure why Kevin Love's on the roster, but that is what it is. Draymond. Who did I miss? That's pretty much all the stars in that team. So, again, it's a stacked roster. They'll be just fine. They're going to get Chris Middleton after the NBA Finals and Drew Holiday. They will be just fine. One loss in an exhibition game to Nigeria, it means nothing. They'll be fine. They'll blow through the rest of the competition. They will win gold. I'll tell you, I would like to see them play. I would like to see them play Luka Doncic in the Olympics. I think that'd be very interesting because you're talking about one superstar on a, shaky Olympic team against, us, the country's best basketball team. So, or the world's best basketball team, I should say. So it'll be interesting. Now, what else we got here? Oh yeah, Damian Lillard. I talked about Dame a little bit about a week and a half ago on the show when the report by Chris Haynes came out saying he very well may request a trade out of Portland. We saw after the Blazers lost in the first round to Denver, and they lost in 6 games. I actually picked Portland to win that series in 7. They lost in 6 on their home floor. I said after that, I think the final straw for Dame, he's gotten Portland to playoffs year in and year out. They've never been a contender. Even in 2019, they get to the Western Conference Finals. They weren't a contender. They weren't beating Golden State, right? That nobody ever thought of them as that. The final straw for Dame, it's Game 5. It's on the road in Denver. He drops 55 points. He hits the game-tying 3 in the fourth quarter to force overtime. He comes back, hits the game-tying 3 in overtime to force double overtime. Hits 12 threes, a new NBA playoff record, breaking Klay Thompson's record, all for Robert Covington to miss a wide-open dunk. And on the last offensive possession of the game, basically for Portland, CJ McCollum, an unforced error, stepping out of bounds. I thought that was it. And we saw that Instagram post after it was over, the Nipsey Hussle quote, where it's like, oh, okay, this is a little cryptic. You factor in he's going to play with Team USA, the best basketball players in the world, or at least in the country, and it's starting to feel like, okay, he's going to see. It's similar to LeBron in Cleveland in 2008. LeBron was happy in Cleveland. Then in the 2008, the Redeem team, he plays with Kobe and Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony. I think Chris Paul was on that team. Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh. That was a loaded roster. Not as good as the 2012 roster, but it was stacked. And LeBron's like, oh, wait. Oh, I can play with some of these guys? 2 years later, the decision, he teams up with Wade and Bosh, and they win 2 championships in 4 years. I think this is what we're seeing. John Rivera commented, it's coming. Oh, yes, my friend, it is. He says Golden State got the best package. I'm glad you said that, John. Because according to a very good source, that would be Anthony Slater in the Bay Area. According to Mr. Slater, Golden State has already had discussions about trading for one Damian Lillard. What did I talk about on Thursday's show? Golden State has the best trade package for him. What are the reports saying about what Golden State could trade? Per Slater, this is on Bleacher Report, per Slater, the Warriors could offer perhaps the best package in a trade, headlined by James Wiseman, plus the 7th and 14th picks in the 2021 draft. The team would also add Andrew Wiggins and future first-rounders to complete a deal. What did I say a week and a half ago? The 2 picks, Wiseman, Wiggins. I said Eric Paschall, a guy who can score off the bench. But if we have to give up other first-rounders, we give up other first-rounders. Right? Like, you've had teams in the past. Think about the Los Angeles Rams in the NFL and all the trades that they've made. They've given up a lot of first-round picks. Do they regret any of those? Do they regret trading for Matthew Stafford? Do they regret trading for Jalen Ramsey? No. Do the Lakers regret trading Brandon Ingram, good player, actually really good player, for Anthony Davis? Got my criticisms of AD, but anybody in their right mind would take Anthony Davis over Brandon Ingram. They also gave up first-round picks. So if Golden State has to, put together like an OKC package and just give up a bunch of first-round picks, you can have the picks. You can have James Wiseman, who I've said on the show I think is going to be a superstar in this league. So Portland will be getting a guy, probably not as good as Dame, but a superstar, future superstar. And Andrew Wiggins, who had his best year defensively, had his best year shooting the 3, and when he was the number 2 option in the second half of the season to Steph, he showed up. He played fairly well. Better than I thought he would. Average over 20 over the All-Star break. He's a consistent 20 points a game. You know what you're getting. What did we talk about last week? It's coming. Jonah G says, yo! Yeah, that will be me if it actually does come through. I'll have the Michael Jordan shrug emoji. And, everybody's talking about the Lakers. What do the Lakers give up? You're obviously not trading LeBron. If you go AD for Dame straight up, I think that's the only route the Lakers have to getting Dame, is trading AD for Dame. I would do it if I'm Rob Pelinka. I would do it in a heartbeat. Dame's a better player consistently than Anthony Davis. But I just don't think they will. So if you can't trade AD, who you can trade? Kuzma? You think the Blazers are going to take Kuzma? Heck, you package Kuzma, THT, KCP. You think Portland's going to take that for Dame? We're talking about Damian Lillard, who's probably the second greatest player in Portland history. Bill Walton's probably their greatest player. You think they're just going to take a bunch of scrubs? That's what they are. KCP's a nice player, but guys, Kuzma's horrible, and THT's young. You think they're going to take that? The Knicks! What are the Knicks going to give up? By the way, Dame's got a no trade clause. Dame chooses where he wants to be traded. You think he'd turn down the opportunity to play with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green? In the Bay Area, where he's from? A championship culture, a championship coach? A backcourt shared with Steph, who he has on multiple occasions praised? You think he'd turn that down? Listen, the Knicks, it'd be big. It'd be big. Madison Square Garden, he'd get more exposure. It'd be better probably for his individual brand. One could argue. You're playing in the Garden. Games aren't tipping off at 10 o'clock Eastern time. Most of their games will be on national TV. Individually, it'd probably be pretty good for him. We all know there's nothing better for your brand than putting a ring on your finger. Now, my only concern for the Warriors would be, what do you do defensively? Because obviously, here's your starting lineup. You're 4. It'd be Steph, Dame, Klay, Draymond, probably Kevon Looney at the 5. Unless they go out and get another, unless they were to, possibly go out and get somebody, which I don't think what they would do. That's what the trade deadline's for. You go out and get guys at the trade deadline who are defensive players. That's what I thought Brooklyn made the mistake. I said this on the show. That's what I thought Brooklyn made the mistake of not doing. They didn't go after any defensive players. And I think it cost them in the long run. Certainly in the playoffs against Milwaukee. Golden State, Bob Myers, one of the best general managers in the game. They'll do that. Joe Lacob, and this is why I love Joe Lacob. he will do anything to put his team in the championship picture. I think they're already a championship team without Dame, with Wiggins and Wiseman. But you add Dame, a guy who gives you 27, 28 a game, with Steph, who just led the league in scoring, a two-time MVP, with Clay, who, when healthy, Clay's the ultimate question mark. I think he will be back. After hearing Steph talk about Clay at the over the weekend, it sounds like he's confident Clay's going to be back and ready to go. Draymond, we know he's not a great offensive player, but he's a defensive demon. They've got a good bench. Poole, Toscano Anderson, Pascal. Oh, if they get Dame, Golden State is the favorite in the Western Conference. And I will be sitting pretty. I will be sitting pretty. I told y'all. Golden State's got the best trade package. I'll put this comment up again from John Rivera because he hit the nail on the head. He even put the package emoji there. That's good. Golden State got the best package. Yes, they do. And I think it's going to happen. All of Dame is, in fact, going to leave. That's the question. If Dame wants out of Portland, if Golden State puts up that exact trade offer, and he says, I want to go there, and Portland basically has no choice, the Western Conference belongs to Golden State. Because at that point, the Lakers, you're relying on an old LeBron and a fragile Anthony Davis. The Clippers are the Clippers. They are the team in the basement, right? As we've heard on multiple occasions. Denver will be good. Denver's probably the team I fear the most in the future. With Jokic, Porter, I think, is emerging year after year, and we all know what Jamal Murray is capable of doing in the playoffs. Utah, Donovan Mitchell, and what? Golden State would be the favorite out west. And I will love it. Now, let's talk about the current finals. Game 4, NBA Finals. It's going to tip off Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time on ABC, as it always does this time of year. Phoenix, Milwaukee. Phoenix is a 2-1 series lead. Vegas today, this could obviously change in the next 48 hours, but Vegas right now has the line Milwaukee -4 at home, obviously. This is going to be a dogfight because Phoenix does not want the momentum to shift to Milwaukee coming home for a Game 5. Milwaukee is obviously in desperation mode. If they win, boom, we basically have a best-of-3 series. If they lose, they're down 3-1, and they're not coming back down 3-1 on Phoenix, having to win twice on the road. That's not going to happen. I think it's close. I think Milwaukee found formulas in Game 3 that worked. I think Monty Williams, being the great coach he is, will make adjustments. I think Devin Booker will play big. I think DeAndre Ayton will not be in foul trouble, and Chris Paul will do his thing. Despite that, Milwaukee wins Game 4. They tie the series 117-114. 117-114. There's going to be a lot of points on both sides because here's what we know. Chris Paul, he's going to bounce back. Devin Booker, definitely going to bounce back. Ayton's the key for me. I've said DeAndre Ayton's the key these whole playoffs. If Ayton stays healthy, or not if he stays healthy, he stays out of foul trouble. Excuse me. If he stays out of foul trouble, we know how much of a monster he is in the pick and roll with Chris Paul. Unstoppable. Absolutely unstoppable. But what about Phoenix's role players? I don't think Jay Crowder's going to hit 6 threes in Game 4. Does Cam Payne step up? Maybe. Does Cam Johnson step up? I don't see him playing as well as he did last night in Game 4. It's hard to put together back-to-back games like that as a role player off the bench. Certainly a young player, which Cam Johnson is. Whereas for Milwaukee, Giannis is having his historic finals. Middleton, back on track. He's going to give you a couple more good games as, you know, he's in Game 2 of his next 2 or 3 game stretch. And Drew Holiday, he might have found his touch, at least at home. Shot the 3 well, was aggressive, and once again, played great defense. Guys off the bench, Connaughton. Guys in the starting lineup, Tucker. They play big again. They're comfortable in their home building. The Deer District outside of Fiserv Forum is going to be going crazy as they have these whole playoffs. Reminds me a little bit of Jurassic Park with the Raptors. The Deer District is just huge. And Milwaukee ties the series in a high-scoring affair, 117-115. It is going to be probably the best game of the finals. That's what I think it's going to be. Both teams are desperate. Phoenix, go ahead and go up 3-1, coming back home where you know Milwaukee's players struggle. Role players struggle, excuse me. And your role players obviously don't, as we all know is the case in the NBA. Milwaukee, you can't go down 3-1. If you do, it's a wrap. It's going to be something. And on Thursday's show, we will obviously react to it, and it's going to be something else. Milwaukee, I'm 3-0 my predictions thus far. Let's keep it going. I'll be 4-0 after Wednesday. 117-115. Milwaukee Bucks win. They tie the series 2-2. Giannis drops. I'll give Giannis 38, 16, and 6. 38 points. 38 rebounds would be crazy. 38 points, 16 rebounds, and 6 assists. Because we all know, I've always talked about Giannis. He's a very good distributor of the basketball. I feel like that's the one part of his game that we don't talk about enough. He's a very good distributor of the basketball. It's going to be the best game of the finals. I guarantee it. So with that, that is all the time we have for tonight's show. Thank you all so much for stopping by. A big thanks to Alfred Parsard Jr. of the Metropolitan Report for stopping by, carving it up to talk all things baseball. Going to be watching a home run derby in a little less than an hour. Shohei Ohtani, I think, is going to win it. I think he's going to put on a show. He is Showtime. It is Colorado in that Denver altitude. It's going to be a lot of hard hit balls, obviously, and it's going to be must-see TV. So looking forward to game 4 of the finals, obviously, Wednesday night. Tomorrow night, by the way, is the MLB All-Star Game. Thursday, second half starts. Red Sox, Yankees. Red Sox going to take 3 or 4. I'm calling that too. So with that, that is all the time we have for tonight's show. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy your week. Catch us on Thursday, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. Stay safe out there, y'all. God bless.